Here at the Hindu with me, Nistula Hebbar, where we unpack the news making the headlines in domestic politics. Now, this week saw the winter session of Parliament wind to a close a week early, and amidst protests by opposition leaders that the government was avoiding a discussion on the clash between the People's Liberation Army of China and the Indian Army in Arunachal Pradesh, an aggression by the PLA, and there was had no discussion allowed on the border situation between the two countries. Ever since the Galwan Valley clash of 2020, the border has been troubled both in Ladakh and in Arunachal Pradesh because of Chinese aggression. COVID also made a comeback in public discourse, with masks being back in parliament after a surge in China and fatalities rumored to be in their thousands in that country, raising a fear of the return of the pandemic to Indian shores as well. Meetings were held by the centre and state governments to review the situation, but also to a drag out fight between the BJP and the Congress. This was, of course, started when Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia wrote a letter to Wayanad MP Rahul Gandhi and Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot that there were apprehensions of COVID 19 spreading through the Bharat Jodo Yatra. This was a red flag to the Congress, who responded asking whether the BJP had followed COVID norms during the Gujarat Assembly campaign, which just concluded. It is this spirit of political confrontation, despite it being a Christmas week, that brings us to the topic of today's episode of Talking Politics, which is yet another edition in the face-off between the Aam Aadmi Party and its government in Delhi and the Lieutenant Governor of the National Capital Region, who is appointed by the centre. Now, in a past episode of Talking Politics, if you kind of go back to it, we looked at the face-off between the two over Delhi's new excise policy, which the Lieutenant Governor managed to get reversed. This particular edition of the confrontation was about advertisements given to the media and about not following of norms while giving out advertisement rupees to the media. It came up suddenly last week, and this will be what we will be looking at today, because I also need some clarity on this. In fact, while researching for this episode, my colleague Mehul Malpani's explainer, which is in the text and context section of the paper, came in pretty handy for me. If you want, you can also look that up. Otherwise, there is this episode of Talking Politics. Well, what just happened? Last week, Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Vinai Kumar Saxena directed Chief Secretary Naresh Kumar to implement a 2016 order of the Committee on Content Regulation in Government Advertising, henceforth to be referred to as CCRGA, and the order called for recovering rupees 97.14 crores plus interest from the ruling Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi for political advertisements published or telecast as government advertisements in 2015 and 16. Now, that's pretty self-explanatory. But what exactly is CCRGA? It's a three-member body. The CCRGA was formed by the Union Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in April 2016 on the directions of the Supreme Court in its judgment in the Common Cause versus Union of India case in May 2015. This body is set up to regulate the content of central and state government advertisements in all media platforms. The Supreme Court had also mandated that states constitute their own respective bodies. While some states have set up committees to regulate public advertising content, some have given consent to the CCRGA to monitor their advertisements. Now, plainly speaking, ruling governments have a lot of advertising budget. That has to be strictly used for publicizing government programs and not have any political content in it at all. There are some guidelines that need to be followed for that. So the Supreme Court because of a case, told the central government that you need to set up a committee that will regulate this, that will make sure that no political content whatsoever is in these advertisements. State governments had been asked to set up their own committees, and in some cases, if the state government so wants, or there is a constitutional issue in the mix that this is a union territory, etc., that the CCRGA itself can adjudicate on cases that come before it. So the Supreme Court in its order had also issued a set of guidelines for public funded advertisements by government. So some of the guidelines mentioned include that government advertisements should maintain political neutrality and avoid glorification of political personalities or projecting a positive impression of a party in power, etc., or a negative impression of parties critical to the government. They should also not be used to patronize media houses. Basically, media houses depend a lot on government advertising. So if as a government you are extremely generous to a particular media house or basically really give a lot of advertisement support, and that particular media house is not really doing a critical evaluation of the government, which is the job of the media, this also comes under the mandate of the CCRGA. Now, what was this 2016 order of the CCRGA specifically? Now, months after the formation of this body, following a complaint by Congress leader Ajay Maken, the CCRGA issued notices to the Delhi government on allegations that there were violations of the SC mandated guidelines in publishing political advertisements. In its response, the Delhi government informed the CCRGA that it was going to form a committee of its own as per the 2015 order of the Supreme Court, which said that the states could set up their own bodies to regulate this particular aspect. Now, Mr. Markan said, he went to the Delhi High Court and he said that union territories are not authorized to constitute their own committees because they are not states. And therefore, this CCRGA will be the one which will be actually looking, the CCRGA of the center will be looking at political advertisements by the Aam Aadmi government or any government ruling Delhi at that time. So the High Court gave a judgment in favor of Mr. Markan in August 2016. And therefore, the CCRGA then stepped in and said that, okay, we will be investigating this complaint by Mr. Markan. And after its investigation, it passed an order in September 16, 2016, ruling that a number of Delhi government advertisements had violated the guidelines on various fronts, such as false, misleading advertisements, mentioning the party in power by name, self-glorification, targeting political opponents, etc. The committee also directed the Delhi government's Directorate of Information and Publicity, the DIP, which issues government campaigns, to identify specific advertisements, quantify the money spent on them, and recover it from the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, after quantifying an amount of rupees 97.14 crores spent on these advertisements, the DIP on March 30th, 2017, directed AAP convener Arvind Kejriwal, who is also Chief Minister of Delhi, to pay 42.26 crores to the state exchequer immediately and to release the remaining amount directly to the agency's publications which ran the advertisements within 30 days. Now, what has been the Aam Aadmi Party's response to this? Obviously, nobody likes to be stuck with a huge fine like this, especially not a political party. And so the AAP has been combating these allegations and this particular finding of the CCRGA. Basically, they said that since forming the government in 2015, it has been defending its spending on advertisements. It states that it is for public knowledge of different government schemes and various awareness campaigns. On Tuesday also, underlining this, Aam Aadmi Party's chief spokesperson, MLA Saurabh Bharadwaj, said dengue awareness advertisements are about asking people to remove water from water coolers and empty vessels. There is no cost for the people in doing these things. And BJP asks that crores of rupees are spent on its own advertisement. This is a stupid thing to ask when you are spreading awareness of about something with regard to public education, it is priceless. The value of this awareness among the public is priceless. If the public is saved from dengue, then how many lives will be saved, etc. So basically, they are putting across a public welfare argument with regard to spending on this kind of advertisement. And he basically showed different advertisements on newspapers. He said there are no BJP ruled states whose advertisements are published in Delhi's newspapers. And he said that the Delhi L-G, however, Mr. Saxena, in his order, directed Chief Secretary to refer all Delhi government advertisements since September 2016 to the CCRGA for ascertaining if they were in consonance with the Supreme Court's guidelines. So this is where the situation exists. Now, the battle between the Aam Aadmi Party and its political rivals is likely to get sharper in the coming days, with the AAP having received national party status after the Gujarat Assembly elections. Now, control of the media narrative is important in the dissemination of a political party's ideology. And not just this development, seeking to review just where, basically where this advertising money is going, where this advertising support was going. You control media houses according to people. This is how political parties get favorable coverage from media houses, because you're offering them revenue in terms of government advertising support and etc., etc., like the excise policy issue, where the BJP had alleged that by giving out excise licenses to a lot of people, changing the excise policy to favor a certain number of people, the Aam Aadmi Party was getting funds for fighting elections in other states. Now, this was a facet of confrontation between rival political parties via government spending. I hope this was illuminating. All of this feeds into confrontations, and it also offers a very fascinating look at just how political parties amplify and gather support. It was certainly extremely insightful for me, and it will be insightful further on to see how this confrontation plays out. This is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. A very, very Merry Christmas to all of you.